what's your take on the global stability right now?
Oof. So unfortunately, I would say that the world, the globe, is fairly stable. The question is, what's the foundation of that stability? The foundation for the stability of the world for a long time has been the United States.
Mm.
We are seeing that transition, just like you said, right? It's that place where you slide the pizza off the pizza pan and onto the cutting board, right? Who we've been the pizza pan for a long time, and now it's sliding to someone else. The pizza's still very stable, but what's the platform? What's the foundation? I am always optimistic that the United States will recover. It will change its ways, will find a way to reunify the incredible the incredible polarity that we're in right now and get focused on the one true goal, American primacy.
Mm. Do you think that's possible in a world where I know, just saying American primacy, it like puts you at risk of being canceled? Like people just, there is a contingent. I won't even say how big it is, but they're fucking loud. There is a contingent of people, and it could be large, that's offensive.
I understand it. I do. I understand it, and that's okay. I hope that doesn't happen on your show, right?
You'll get some of it, to be sure.
No, I'm not worried about it happening to me. I just hope nobody cancels your show.
But too rich for that.
But the truth is, American survival is not being threatened. We don't have an existential threat to the United States. Existential threats are the threats that make people move. We talk about existential threats. More likely, other countries talk about existential threats. And what is an existential threat? A true existential threat is a threat that challenges your very existence. The existence of the United States is contingent upon the existence of the United States government, not Americans. Like we sometimes think that Americans make the United States. The United States is a representative republic government that has never existed before that now exists. So if that government falls or if that government cracks or breaks, all the people will still be here, right? But America will be gone. So the existential threat to the United States is the one that would trigger Americans to react. Now we've come close to those moments. 9/11 is one of those times. When all Americans...
That felt awesome for a hot minute. It felt so good. The unity, yeah.
Yeah, all of a sudden, all of our differences melted away, right? The same thing happened at Pearl Harbor. All of our differences melted away because we had a common enemy. And we could individually see the existential threat posed to our country and our livelihood. Since 9/11, we have not had that kind of a threat. Countries around us have woken up to the fact, just like Emperor Hirohito in World War II said, "I fear we have woke a sleeping dragon." Our enemies have learned that Americans are slow to react. But when they react in full force. There's no way a savvy, intelligent, superpower competitor, GPC, global power competitor, is going to trigger an existential threat to the United States. Because they know that as long as they basically let us segment ourselves separately, as long as we insulate ourselves separately, we're going to eat ourselves to death with our own stupid little bitter squabbles about American primacy, right? Or about woke culture, or about representation, or about who knows what. We're going to just waste our time bickering in our little room, and we're not going to wake up to what's happening in the entire building. That's the strategy of the future.
Is to keep us divided.
It's not to keep, an influence campaign is always cheaper, easier, and and has a higher probability of success than a military campaign. So an influence campaign is basically like, hey, don't forget that you have race issues. Hey, don't forget that there's a socioeconomic divide. Hey, don't forget that the South tried to secede from the Union one. They're just picking, they're just poking and throwing salt on a wound. And then we are fighting over it, right? And we fill our days worrying about this garbage. blind to what's happening on the larger scale, blind to the fact that the fantastic example is the global war on terrorism. The United States led the global war on terrorism following 9/11, right? And it felt good for a hot minute, like you said. We were all on the same page and we were all in this fight. And then that fight lasted 10 years, and then that fight lasted 20 years.
Also, it became so dodgy. Like what we were, like if we had just been relentless about Osama bin Laden,
That's
like
one
when
thing.
I heard how we caught him in like the size of a shadow, I don't know if that's true, but like it sounded dope. And I was just like, dude, we're ninjas. This is amazing.
Yeah.
But that was after like a lot of, and look, I'm not super engaged in this stuff, so I'm definitely popping off ignorantly, but it did not feel good as a casual observer where we ended up going and how we ended up fighting and all that. And it just seemed like, wait, what are we doing?
Right.
So that felt like a squandered opportunity.
Well, during those 20 years, while we were mastering the art of hunting terrorism, hunting terrorists in mountains in Pakistan and Afghanistan, what were our global power competitors doing? Was Russia engaged in the global war on terror? Was China involved in the global war on terror? So all the hundreds of billions of dollars that we spent in that war, we spent in a war that was a giant distraction for us that gave our closest near-peer competitors 20 years to invest their money and grow to become a larger threat than we were even aware they were becoming, right? And then China, all of a sudden, China has multiple aircraft carriers and they're launching aircraft from aircraft carriers and they can project power into the South Asian seas. That's insane, right? All of a sudden, like the Russian Federation is in close relationships with the Chinese and the Syrians and the North Koreans and the Iranians. How do we just wake up to this? Right? And that's what happens. It happens because we are still an adolescent country. So we get very myopic and we become very focused on the thing that we're playing with right now. And we lose the larger sight, the larger vision. The world has watched us do this for too long, and they don't make the same mistake twice, especially not authoritarian countries, because authoritarian countries have the benefit of authoritarian rulers that sit in an office or sit in a place, in a chair, for 15, 20, 30 years, right? They don't deal with the kind of tumult and transition that we have in the United States. I believe our constant change of leadership is part of what makes us strong, but we haven't yet learned how to have a change in leadership without a change in focus. That's what we haven't quite learned to do yet. So we're giving our authoritarian enemies an opportunity to have focus for a long period of time against us, while we don't have that against them.
If you like this short clip, make sure you click here to see the next clip or here to see the full podcast episode.
Freedom! So fresh, so new. Freedom!